There's a dangerous tipping point in politics when frustration curdles into resignation. Young Australians are currently teetering on that edge. For decades now, the Australian settlement, as it has been dubbed, relied on a simple covenant: work hard, study, save, invest early, and trust in the system. Now, it didn't guarantee untold wealth, but it certainly promised a viable pathway towards prosperity. Get educated, secure a job, buy a home, build assets, and retire with dignity. Well, today that covenant is being shattered, and it's being shattered significantly. Housing is the most glaring casualty of all, but the rot runs far deeper than that, and Labor's so-called reforms from the budget risk worsening the situation because they are half-baked, haven't been pressure tested, and don't fit into a wider overarching economic reform agenda that's designed to do the important things that the Australian economy needs. Now, rents are a clear issue. They are rising too fast. Home ownership is becoming a mirage, and the HECS debts that compound this situation are punishing people who are burdened by them. And that's all despite the fact that the government has tried to do something about that at the expense of the university system. Now, the cost of basic survival these days, things like groceries, well, it's devoured stagnant real wages during what are inflationary times. The secure full-time employment that once anchored the middle class is increasingly elusive in the modern world. And for those who played by the rules, who saved, bought shares, or scraped together an ETF portfolio because property was simply out of reach, well, the message from Canberra is a bleak one. Bad luck. We're coming for that too now, is pretty much what they said in the budget. Lifting taxes and broadening how they are collected while doing little, very little, to cut recurrent government expenditure is not good enough. And they are not therefore paying down what is rising debt. Now, this is why the debate over Labor's proposed capital gains tax changes is about much, much more than simple Treasury numbers. Certainly, there's a valid economic debate about CGT design and how it might be changed. Economists, they can spar over all sorts of things, such as the 50% discount, inflation indexation, and even the delicate balance between taxing income and investments. Budget repair and removing market distortions are serious imperatives worthy of debate, make no mistake. But politics isn't just about balancing the ledger, not that we're even doing that right now. What politics is about, really, is the signals that a government sends to its citizens. Right now, the signal Labor is broadcasting to younger Australians is a devastating one. Uncertainty abounds, and unintended consequences, well, they're piling up. Labor's agenda looks more than a little messy, and it was designed to help younger generations, so we were told, so you really have to wonder if that is exactly how it's playing out at the moment. The overarching theme is that the rules of the game are being rewritten just as younger generations are stepping up to the board, while the older generations, well, they sit comfortably on their grandfathered games. Anthony Albanese, he is one of those oldies that's being protected by the very system that he's changing. First, his parliamentary pension was protected from higher taxes on superannuation that Labor brought in. Next, he cashed in on his CGT rules that are now being taken away. And he also owns a negatively geared property that he can continue to minimise his tax with. When that opportunity, well, it's been denied to younger Australians going forward. No wonder Albo's personal ratings are tanking, despite the lack of a viable opposition party at the moment. Well, the budget and the way that it was delivered, it was a profound political miscalculation by the Albanese government, lying its way to an agenda dropped on voters without warning is a complete contrast to what was promised by the Labor Party and the Prime Minister less than 1 year ago at the election. How can Albo and his government ever be trusted again? That is the political fallout, and it is cutting across generations, and younger voters feel that way as much as anyone. Treasurer Jim Chalmers, well, he tries to defend the changes under the banner of fairness, arguing that the current CGT arrangements distort investment and that inflation indexation creates a more neutral system. Maybe, maybe not. Although some of the best counter-arguments to that argument by Jim Chalmers are coming from within his own parliamentary team, from better educated, better informed colleagues such as Dr. Andrew Charlton, the Cabinet Secretary for the Labor Party, who, unlike Chalmers, is a trained economist with real-world business experience. Now, whichever way the truth about the CGT changes goes, the generational optics of these changes are definitely toxic. Critics rightfully point out that this isn't just a housing policy change. It's an economy-wide tax hike on investment that disproportionately saddles younger, newer investors with a lifetime burden. The PM, he's already scrambling to try and undo some of the mess that his Treasurer Jim Chalmers laid out in his budget not long ago. Young Australians, they already know that the game is rigged against them. They watch older cohorts enjoy the spoils of free university, something Anthony Albanese also benefited from. They see these older Australians enjoy the benefits of having purchased cheaper housing and decades of policy settings that hyperinflated their property wealth. These younger Australians have watched successive governments, both Labor and the Coalition to be fair, protect house prices with a religious zeal, terrified of the wealthy, vocal property owner electorate dominated by the baby boomers, just like our Prime Minister. Now, Labor's effectively telling younger voters that the only remaining escape routes, well, such as, for example, building wealth through alternative investments or entrepreneurship, they're essentially saying them they're being barricaded, taken away or denied to them altogether. Older Australians bought assets earlier, cheaper, under highly favourable tax conditions. Younger Australians arrive late. They pay a premium, they borrow heavily, they rent almost indefinitely before that, and they're now being targeted by a government desperate for revenue to keep propping up what is an enlarged state when spending should probably be cut. The ultimate risk for Labor now, well, it's that younger voters don't view this as true reform. They instead view it as just another door being slammed shut. Politicians routinely underestimate the quiet radicalism of giving up. When young people stop believing that the system can work for them, they stop aspiring. They delay starting families. They abandon the dream of home ownership altogether, and they detach. They drift towards minor parties and independence, or they simply tune out of politics entirely. An angry generation can be negotiated with. An apathetic generation is lost, and the country, well, it suffers as a consequence. Labor should understand this. They held power largely because younger voters abandoned the coalition and moved to Labor. That seemed culturally and economically the right thing to do. Well, in many ways it still is, but Labor mistakes this circumstantial support for ideological loyalty. Young voters, they're not ideologically loyal, they're highly mobile because the economic foundations that they face are fragile. They will mercilessly punish any government that merely manages their decline rather than actively improves their prospects. And just look at where they're parking their protest vote now. One Nation's support amongst younger voters is at a record high. What Labor can't do is dress up a revenue grab as fairness and expect a standing ovation from the people who are footing the bill. The brazen attempt by Chalmers to do just that should be consigned, or should consign him at least, to the political dustbin. Young Australians aren't naive. They know the difference between genuine reform and a tax trap. They see when older, entrenched wealth is shielded while new entrants are forced to carry the cost of the economic adjustment. If Labor continues to narrow the pathways to prosperity, well, it will cement the most corrosive belief of all, that the Australian system is no longer built for its youth. Once that belief hardens, well, no budget slogan will be able to undo the immense damage that gets done.